Welcome back to the Rest is F1 podcast. Today we're talking about the F1 movie, and for the first time, I've got a special guest, my mate Finn. How you doing, bro?
It's good. It's good to be here. I had the pleasure of watching the film with you last night, so it's still fresh in our minds. But
So obviously the movie's just come out like pretty much yesterday, wasn't it? That was release day.
for Australia, yes, it was.
Yeah.
So
Obviously the movie's come out, and we're just as hardcore F1 fans, we wanna let you know our thoughts. So we're gonna go essentially do a review of the movie, think about what we would change, what we wouldn't change, kind of stuff like that. And honestly, I mean, I don't know where to start. Like, there was a lot, wasn't there?
I mean, if you want to break down a bit, we can start with the plot if you want. So
Yeah. Let's go plot. Let's go plot.
Alright,
Probably the main thing to focus on, really, because like that's where you want to.
yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I know Carlos Sainz said that thing where I think he said something along the lines of, if you know what F1 is, if you just know what it is, then yeah, you'll enjoy the movie. I think it's terrific. If you're someone that is, very like religious about the sport, you live and breathe it, you might find a few things in it that you go, that's not fair, or that's not the best. But
Yeah.
but I can kind of see that, because there was a few things where I was like, and like for me as well, like I'm a bit of a nerd, and like it's the stupidest stuff, right? Like just nitpicking some of the stuff, like when they replace Sonny Hayes at the last seconds for the reserve driver, they just chuck him in. Like, that's obviously illegal in real life. You have to set a quality time to then participate in the race, and I'm sure hundreds of people have said that already. But like, just stuff like that. But
it's like, so like the plot was like, it's pretty basic. It was pretty basic, but then it kind of expands. Like,
yeah, I think
it was straightforward, as in, like, Sonny Hayes, he's friends with what was his name? Ruben.
Yeah.
The team owner of Apex GP, the new team, obviously. And they've been there for like 3 years or 2 years, I think it was.
Yeah, 2.5 years, and
2.5 years.
Scored a point.
Still haven't scored a point. And it was pretty much get a win and the team stays, or if we lose. If we don't get a win, the team is gone.
I felt like the plot was quite predictable at some points. Like, I kind of felt like I couldn't tell from any of the trailers that Joshua Pierce would be, his character was kind of a dick towards Sonny Hayes, and his character arc was that he went from being like a cocky rookie, having this old guy come in and show him up. He really hated that. But it was quite predictable in some of the bits where it's like, right at the start when Sonny Hayes goes to his test, I must admit, I was sitting there in the cinema, I was kind of like, I bet you he's going to barely scrape over the line and prove that he's just barely better, and that'll really piss Joshua off. And he was like, right at the end, they're like, oh my God, you're 3/10 up. Wow, he's faster than, look at you go. And then it's like, Joshua's like, that sucks, the old guys.
Well, they made it like clear cut, because like the qualifying lap that he was doing for the testing, they just made it like so straightforward. They're like, okay, Joshua's not good in the last sector. So that's where Sonny gains his time, because he was already like half a second down, I think.
They did mention that or something like that? Like, one of the characters,
and it was like, and she was like, I think it was like one of the engineers, like the main,
the chief one.
The chief one.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, he succeeded what he was saying by a 5/100ths of a second.
Yeah.
So, or 5/10ths of a second. Sorry.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, it's kind of predictable at that point. Like, and I don't know if you did see, like, I actually saw that scene of him doing his lap before the movie, because
no, I hadn't seen that.
They actually did like a little, I guess, teaser.
The most I saw online was when he walks down the pit lane and goes, and they go, oh, who's this? Oh, it's Sonny Hayes. Oh, he's auditioning for our team. And then Josh was like, oh, who's the old timer? When did you win when did you last win? Yesterday, Daytona. Like all that stuff. But I hadn't, nothing else. I'd never seen anything for the film.
So I actually saw that like whole sequence of like, obviously him, doing the lap and just essentially just crashing as he gets to the line. Like, he pretty much crossed the line and crashed.
Yeah. I was expecting it to be more like a little bit more corny, and it'd be like, and him like get out of the car and him go like, well, I stuffed the car up, and then he goes, and they go, no, you crossed the line, well done. And he goes, oh, would you look at that? And I'm just faster than him, but they didn't do that, which was a breath of fresh air. I kind of was quite happy with that. But
I think, like, honestly, the way, like, I feel like obviously we'll come back to the sort of like the story again, but I just want to
Mm.
say like the visuals, man, they did like honestly, I don't think it's possible to really capture like how quick those cars go, but I feel like
No,
they did a
but
very, very good job.
I completely agree with you because the cars they use, they are modified F2 cars. So I
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
they are the shell of it is an F2 car, but then they've just visually made it look like the
yeah.
Formula
They've
One cars
essentially
for the
just made the
24 season. Yeah,
outside,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like that.
So performance wise, they're obviously not going to compare to it, but visually, they did it as best as they can. Which I think was terrific because then they obviously had cameras all over the car, and in I think 23 or must have been 2023 or 2024, they actually let the two Apex GP cars participate in the formation lap
Hmm.
of the real race. So they went around with the actual F1 cars on the real formation lap, and then at the end they just pulled into the pits because they got a lot of footage from that,
Hmm.
which I thought was pretty interesting. Like that's really cool.
Yeah,
Seeing it's like,
yeah.
the actual cars are driving, the sounds real, all that stuff. But yeah, some of that, like the dedication to kind of making the sport and the movie as like realistic as possible, I thought that was really amazing.
Yeah, I like how they had like, 20 to 15 different cameras just on the car,
Mm,
capture all the angles. They had like the front wing, they had, from very close in, they had
yeah,
obviously the helmet cam, they had, the view of the driver, they had, over the car, like the shots they have on the TV and stuff.
yeah,
And I feel like they did good with like, showing replays and stuff.
yeah,
There was parts of this movie where I felt like it was pretty like corny, and it was not even just like it wasn't
yeah.
even just like the jokes and stuff. It was sort of like
The plot.
when like he'd have a replay and then like Crofty obviously it's
Mm.
great he's in the film
Oh,
like
I
doing the
love that.
commentary, right? And
Yeah,
obviously you got a little scene at the end just like with him and Brundle,
sitting in the
but
box and
and
looking at
sitting
it.
in the
Yeah, yeah,
box. But like he'd be like, oh, look at Hayes, he's like already screwing up and like all of this stuff. And I was just
yeah.
like, oh, it just doesn't sound real, you know?
I think, yeah, some of the stuff was like a little bit corny, and there was obviously, I think a lot of it was over dramatized as well. Like when he crashes in Monza, like that is pretty unrealistic. Yes, there was a crash, almost identical to that in
Yeah,
F2
yeah, yeah.
2019, where he literally hit that sausage curb, and there's a video of it online. He literally just hits the sausage curb and he
Mm.
barrel rolls into the air, and I think he clips the Marshall post and he just smashed into the fence. In the movie, though, he hits that and he goes flying into the forest, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then after that, he like stops for a second and there's an explosion. Like I thought when I saw that, I was like, that's a bit dramatic, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like
no,
I'm
and I
just,
remember like as it was happening, I literally heard you on my right just going, well, that's a bit much. I just remember, I was like, well,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I just
yeah, I
didn't,
didn't
I
know
was like, oh, he's gonna go and like fly into the barrier or something, and then he's
I
gonna
did
be
not know you
fine.
heard that, yeah, but I did notice
Yeah,
that
yeah, I heard that.
because he
And
flew through the air and it was like the slow motion. I was like, oh, that's a bit much, isn't it? And then he goes bang and explodes.
one thing I just realized as well,
Mm,
when Pierce goes for that move on Verstappen,
mm.
it was raining.
Yeah,
And he caught on fire after he crashed, right? Was it still not raining or
it
something?
was hammering it down. Yeah, it was like because the
But would
whole
that not kind of reduce the fire?
I would suspect, yes.
I don't feel like they tried to do that though.
No, I don't think they tried to do that at all. And I'm impressed that he was able to still have so much pace whilst it was raining. And correct me if I'm wrong, they're both still on slick tires. So yeah, if you want to be nitpicky, then
Yeah, yeah.
if you really, yeah, if you want to like overanalyze it, then it's probably impossible for a car to do that
Mm,
without the necessary speed in the rain. They would have been
mm.
at least the most maybe 260, and the car would have been twice as heavy as an F2
Yeah,
car.
yeah, yeah.
So
They wouldn't have been going as fast, like you said, yeah.
they,
And obviously
yeah, they was
they're
not
bigger
possible.
cars, so like I
I,
don't see how it would go flying more than like the F2 crash you were showing me. So
yeah, I mean, look, I could have, I honestly thought that he would have done it and he would have just, clipped the side of him and gone smashed into the barrier and that would have been the big crash. I think that would have worked fine because that's a very realistic crash. I mean, it
mm,
happens all the time, right? Like 21 with Verstappen and Hamilton.
yeah,
It literally almost an identical crash,
yeah,
right? They
yeah.
went around a corner, he clipped him, and he goes straight into the
That's
barrier.
one thing I realized actually. They tried to sort of copy
Hmm.
real life crashes
Oh
and
my,
incorporate them.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
and not even just crashes, just moves as well. Like There was the race in 23 where Hamilton actually overtook Leclerc like,
Mm.
down the inside into turn one in Mexico.
Hmm.
You know what they did? They just put the Apex GP car livery over Lewis's car,
Oh, really?
and that was the scene. They just took that shot,
I did not know
and it's
that.
just him going down the inside instead of having to film it. And I
Mm.
think it's actually smart because that
Yeah.
probably saves quite a bit of like
Oh,
troubles with like
absolutely. And again, if you know what F1 is, you wouldn't have noticed that.
yeah,
But someone like
yeah,
you
yeah,
who like lives and breathes it, yeah,
yeah,
you would notice
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'll tell you what I noticed as well though is that because Sonny Hayes' character is, he started in 1993, so
Mm-hmm.
he raced with like Senna and Prost. He had that major accident, and it was really strange how similar it looked to Ayrton Senna's
Mm-hmm.
because Senna did pass away in that crash, didn't
Yes, he did.
he? He did, right? So, and the footage that I saw of that crash and like that race replay, his car is split in half, and it's exactly the same in the film. I think that's kind of dark that they
Yeah, but then
did a crash.
he could still walk after that, let alone be alive. Like to think of that.
Yeah, I just think that part of it I thought was a little messed up because look, crashes happen all the time in F1, and 9 times out of 10, the drivers are okay.
Yeah,
And then there's always that unfortunate time when, yes, they do pass away. I don't think we need to see that again. I don't think we need to incorporate that into a film and use that for dramatic effects.
yeah.
I just don't think that's necessary. And it's like, it's a bit not disrespectful, but it is kind of messed up because it's serious. I don't know if it is, but it's so weird how similar I thought it was that the way his car was split in half and the front of it was kind of elsewhere. And you know what else? He crashed next to Ayrton Senna.
Yeah,
He was literally racing alongside him and he
yeah,
clips the grass and goes into a barrier.
yeah.
So,
It was felt a little bit implied actually.
yeah,
A little bit like they were trying to go
in this
like very
universe,
similar,
it wasn't Ayrton Senna that crashed, it was Sonny Hayes that crashed and
but he survived. Yeah,
but he survived, yeah.
yeah,
But like,
and I don't know how I feel. I mean, like because they also changed the location. It wasn't in Imola. It was in a Spanish Grand Prix, I think it was.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So honestly, that's the thing. Is like they were going for the realism, but then there
Yeah,
was some times
a
where the
little
realism just wasn't there.
a little hyper realistic, and
Yeah,
there was a bit too much of it, I think.
yeah, yeah.
But
Because I felt like, and I feel like we mentioned this after
mm,
watching the movie as well. It was just like they were adding more like fighting and drama to what F1 already realistically
yeah,
has,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Like there was so much of it off the racetrack, which I didn't expect there to be. I literally thought when we went to set, I was like, oh, it's a film about him racing. It's literally an old timer coming back to the sport. And he's just racing. We're gonna have a full season of racing, but
Yeah,
no, there's so much of the outside, and there's that whole thing where there's that thing with the investor where he like leaks the documents and he to try and shut down the company, and there's like that whole side plot, and then the reveal, and there's the romance stuff as well. Like that
some
stuff.
unnecessary things for sure.
I just didn't think some of that was necessary, to be
Yeah,
honest. Like,
yeah,
I thought, it's a racing film.
yeah. We want to see cars.
We would
We want
like to see,
some
yeah, we'd
cars,
like to see cars.
like I think we're in agreement with this.
Mm,
Absolutely, there should be more racing in the
yeah,
film. Obviously, I know. You go filming, you're filming for like 3 hours and they get like, I don't know, 15 shots or something.
yeah, and of course,
And it's obviously going to be very difficult.
absolutely. And
But
there's no easy way of making this film if you want to have it without most realistic shots. But
yeah,
where did we actually see racing? We saw it in Silverstone. They actually did a bit of racing there. Monza, Abu Dhabi. I think that's it. If I
yeah,
remember correctly.
those were the three races
Well,
we
we had
actually
actually
got
had
to see the
shots, but
full race pretty much.
then they glossed over
Oh, and Hungary as well. Yeah.
and Hungary, but then they glossed over Imola, Spa, Azerbaijan. Was it Baku?
I think it was Vegas.
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 There was like that scene where they just sped ran through all the after Josh's crash.
Mhm.
It just had Sonny Hayes going through like 6
Yeah,
races.
it felt like Josh came back like that. We didn't feel the
Yeah,
like we
because
didn't feel his
they
absence.
pushed it through so far.
Yeah.
Like there was that whole crash, and then it was kind of made out like, oh, he's it's terrible. He's had this huge crash. He won't be back for a while.
Yeah.
5 minutes later,
Yeah.
in watching time, he's back. He's
Yeah.
fully healed.
Yeah, yeah.
He's got like a few bandages
Literally.
on, but he takes the bandages off, and he literally has like little mark there from
Yeah.
the severe burns that
Yeah.
they made it out. So
That's actually what I was gonna say is
mm,
I think generally character speaking, like
Mm.
character wise, sorry, I think Sonny was pretty decently built as a character. I feel like, the whole him being in different sports or different
Yeah.
types of racing was good.
Mm,
I liked how Ruben was. I feel like, he really trusts Sonny and all that, and he's
mm,
obviously a businessman. So
yeah.
he's pretty simple but like effective.
Mm,
And I also feel like Kate was a good character as well. Obviously, I didn't feel like the romance was necessary,
mm.
but I did feel like she did hold her own,
No,
actually
I
kind
did
of
like.
show her intelligence, I feel.
I liked how she went from, this guy's just come to the team because he literally goes after the first race, he goes like, "Oh, I want you to change A, B, and C on the car because I need to do A, B,
And
and
she
C."
goes, no.
And she goes, "No offense, you've been here for literally one race. I'm not going to listen to you because you haven't even finished the race yet." And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I liked how she needed to build up the trust of him, and there needed to be a bit more development from
Yeah.
I don't know this guy to you know what this guy kind of knows what he's doing, so yeah, I'll give him a hand and I'll
Yeah.
trust him. But
So that's what
yeah,
I was going to bring on to that. So obviously those are three of the main characters. The fourth one is Josh.
I thought he was
He
extremely predictable.
he was extremely predictable. I liked his sort of swagger, like cockiness he had.
Mm.
There was that scene in the garage where obviously Sonny pushes Josh because I think Josh had just like crashed into him.
Josh does a move where
Oh,
it
Josh had finished in the points, and
but at the first lap
Sonny,
he
yeah,
caused him to spin out and
exactly.
crash and did yeah,
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 yeah. And so I realized, like, obviously they were fighting and all that bit tense moments, and
yeah.
then he just does this weird thing, like he
Where
starts
he
posing for
stand,
the
yeah, yeah,
camera,
yeah.
and he goes like, "Whoa," and all that stuff. And I was like, "What are you
I
doing? Like,
was
that's not."
I was just about to say that, and I'm like in real life, right? Like the drivers they have a bit of a physical times. Like what was that? What was it like? Esteban Ocon and Verstappen in like 2020
In
when they're doing their weigh-ins or
in
something. Sao Paulo.
Brazil,
Yeah,
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 in
yeah.
Brazil
Because
they had
he had like he went down the inside of Ocon, basically had the move done,
and he
sealed.
Ocon should have let him go.
Ocon,
Yeah,
it like should have kind of gone all right. That move's done. I'll go on to the next row, but he like kept his car there, so I think he just clipped the back
and
fin.
they both spun out,
They both spun out. I think Lewis then went on to win
and
that
yeah,
race,
and
which
Max lost because of that, pretty much. Yeah.
pretty much yeah. But
Um.
because then yeah, he's
Yeah.
in the weigh-in room and he's literally just like he keeps pushing him,
Yeah.
and he's like
Yeah.
it's that's
Yeah.
real, right?
Yeah.
But
And so I feel like the way he was acting about that was
that was creepy.
unrealistic.
Yeah.
But then they're like, yeah, like the
Mm.
shouting, and it's like, that's not, forget F1 realism. That's not like human. Like, that's not
It was.
something a
I thought
human
it.
would do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought it was quite creepy the way he goes from like he's like he's got like that really emotionless face while he's speaking to Sonny. He's kind of like kind of like regretful at some point. So you see the camera, he literally just goes like that,
Yeah.
staring down the
Yeah.
corridor, and he just keeps that face on there. It's like it's creepy as hell, right?
So weird.
Because in real life, I'm pretty sure if they were in that bit and a driver saw him, they would have just been like, "Oh, I'm going to walk around the corner. I'm literally going to take a step to the right, and no more media for me." So
Yeah. That
but,
was like something I just was thrown off by. And I
mm,
didn't like how, I didn't like the way he essentially like, obviously, they had a bad start, and that's going to happen, right?
mm.
That does happen in real life. We've seen it before,
Where a new driver
where a
comes
new
into the
driver
team.
comes in, and like a rookie doesn't really want to let move out of the way for someone else. Let's say,
I
or
think yeah, that's happened.
that's happened
Hundreds of times.
so
Yeah, yeah,
many
yeah.
times.
Mm.
But the way like they start to, Sonny puts his thing aside and just kind of goes, "Okay, you're gonna get the points. I'm gonna do things to make sure you do get the points.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make sure I hold up everyone else, and so you're in the points scoring, like for the team for once."
yeah. I think that in that sense, that plot, I would have loved to have seen it more as Sonny Hayes is. He's like the driver that's come back, and he just puts the new kid first, and he actually races to get those points. Instead, he, intentionally crashes. Like in Hungary, he literally destroys his front wing intentionally
3 times.
3 times.
Yeah,
And
and
then
that race, that was the biggest thing I got thrown off by. Like
I didn't
I was
want
just like, "Whoa,
I didn't,
what is happening?"
I actually didn't enjoy that.
Yeah,
It wasn't racing. It
yeah,
was because he literally, there's a pit where he goes in Hungary where you go up the hill around and then you go into that chicane with the two sausage curves. He literally waits for the driver to come around him and the guy goes alongside him and he clips his wing.
yeah.
And then he goes over the radio, whoopsies.
Yeah, and he goes flying through these like advertising boards just in
Mate,
on like the third time just to cause a safety car.
that is like if they okay, so I think if a driver destroys his front wing 3 times, I reckon maybe a penalty would be awarded for that. But I don't think they would disqualify him because, hey, maybe there's been drivers. Some drivers just have bad days, right? Maybe they're just driving a little shit that day. But if you go over the radio and go, oh, whoopsies, is there a safety car? Oh, great, there's a safety car. Like, I'm pretty sure you're just black flagged instantly. And
yeah, he should get a thing for that. But then also, it would probably affect Josh's result, would it not? Because they could clearly be seen as like, oh, you're doing this to
coinciding with each other.
Yeah. And one other little thing I just want to say, I'm pretty sure Josh Pierce was like racing on one set of tires in a hot conditions for 66 laps before he actually pits.
Even though there's constantly safety cars where he's not running full pace, he still has. Yeah, you're right. He's still on those tires.
Would he not be like more than? Because they were saying it was like, oh, we're losing a second a lap. Or something like that, I think. Or maybe I'm thinking of a different race, but he was losing time.
No, I think you're right because there's.
But then he should have lost way more time. You can't drive for 66 laps without change.
I think you're right because then Joshua keeps saying over the radio, "Am I pitting? Am I pitting?"
Mm-hmm.
Every time there's that safety car, he goes, "Am I pitting? Am I pitting?" And then there's the final safety car. They go, "Yes, pit now," and he goes, "Oh, wonderful, I'll pit now." And it's like. He's had to wait all that long, but yeah, I'm pretty sure all of his tires would have popped. None of them would be alive.
Hungary is like 70 laps or 75 laps or something like that. It's a short track.
But it's a lot of laps. And
it's a lot of laps. And so and they said, oh, it's warm, we're not going to use softs. And then they've put him on hards and he's gone on for 66
laps. They make it pretty clear when they do that they do the pre-race debrief that it's going to be damn hot. You have to have multiple pit stops and the tires will be getting shredded.
It was like, I think it was do one stop or a 2-stop, but it has to be mediums and hards.
It can't be softs.
Can't be soft.
Because that was the whole point, wasn't it? Yeah. They were like, they will not last. There's no softs. You can't use softs.
You can't use softs. And then it was like, that thing of like, okay, he's done all that. Like, Sonny's done all that. And then, he scores a point. Cool. Obviously, I didn't enjoy that race as a concept. It completely threw me off. I was like, okay, this movie's going to go in the wrong direction, and I'm not a fan of it.
I agree with you. I was sitting there, and after that, because that was like the second kind of race they actually had racing in, and I was thinking like, Lewis Hamilton produced this. What? He didn't have any input into the idea of maybe, hey man, it's a racing film instead of just a driver continuously crashing to.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a director. He's not really got a movie,
but
eye for a movie. I feel like he wouldn't maybe have that sort of like.
I was surprised.
I feel like, oh, it's okay. They're gonna make it look more real, but then it ends up not being that case.
It wasn't realistic at all. But
yeah.
So in that sense, where the plot is like, there's a lot of predictability and a lot of things are over dramatized, and I don't think there's as much racing as there deserves to be in a movie about a racing series. It's literally motorsport, and there's
the most popular and highest just highly regarded sport in motorsports,
and there's not as much of it as there pretty much deserves to be. And it's like it kind of the plot. It feels like a lot of it's focused on the stuff outside, like the financial troubles of the team, the romance, how the two characters go. It feels quite strange, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I just want to move on to like sort of the Monza race. I actually did a lot more enjoy that.
I did. Racing.
There was way more racing going on.
Yeah.
I think it was the longest race in that movie, especially due to the crash at the end.
Yeah,
I feel like that was the most like important race for the whole movie, really. And I liked that Sonny wasn't just being a stupid guy like doing the wrong thing.
No, I love that too. Even though he was
actually racing,
even though he was in last place, he was trying to assist his teammate, which he did, because then Joshua gets to second before he crashes, and he's on for.
And then obviously through the safety car and stuff, obviously he eventually goes further up, and he was I believe third. I think he was Sonny.
Was it? No, I thought Sonny was a lap down.
I think you're thinking of Hungary. I think in Monza he was third.
No. Because I'll tell you why. Because he's in Monza and he sits in the pits for 30 seconds, and he says over the radio, "I'm going to take out Verstappen."
Did he say that?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. He said because there's
I'm pretty sure. I don't think he said that. I think Kate was in the box saying, oh my God, he's going to take out Verstappen. Like,
Someone said
because
it.
I think he
Someone
stayed
said
out.
it.
I feel like he stayed out. Did
I
he
know
not? And he
he
tried to
comes,
benefit from the safety car.
but I know he comes into the pits and waits for 30 seconds to
Mhm.
make sure he's with Verstappen and Joshua. He does that intentionally. I know.
Okay.
Whether or not he was the one that says, I'm going to take out Verstappen, I actually can't quite remember now. But someone says it, and I thought, please don't do that. Please don't have it where.
Please don't do that. Because when he's so hungry, I thought, okay, that's possible.
Yeah, I thought that as well, and I
Yeah.
thought if that's how the movie goes, it's like I thought that if that was it, then I was like, this movie's terrible. If
Yeah.
that's how the plot wanted to
Thank
be.
God they didn't do that. Thank God they didn't do that. But I will say, I did enjoy the way he was helping Joshua.
That was nice. That was good.
And the way it was sort of, it reminds me of Alonso with Stroll at the start of 2023.
Yeah.
He was kind of giving tips to him while
And there was a lot of
racing his own
times
race.
where Alonso was probably in a better position in terms of maybe some fresher tires. He maybe had a bit more pace, and he would go over the road and he goes, I'm not going to attack Stroll. I'll stay behind Stroll. I'll try and defend. I'll try and hold drivers up. And yeah, I thought that was great.
He did do the team game, which is what Sonny was doing
and it's
for
like
that race.
It's quite similar, isn't it? An old timer who retired from the sport for a period of time comes back to a team that's underperforming somewhat, but they do have that pace. And then there's a driver who, I mean, Stroll is pretty. You can't really compare him to anyone, but
yeah, even to not real, fictional characters, but
what? Okay, so what else we got? We got and then that romance.
He makes I just want to say he makes that mistake. Pierce does, Josh does.
Yeah, I
The
don't.
mistake of trying to go around Parabolica side by side with Max. I feel like that was an unrealistic move. Because obviously
I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, and I feel like obviously they show it later in the simulator when he's like redoing that scenario, and this is part of what I was going to say next is he replays it, and when he actually tries what Sonny said to do, it works, and obviously that's more realistic, right? Following down the straight,
follow them through the corner, and then go around. Yeah.
So just go around the corner, follow through, and then overtake on the straight.
Yeah.
But obviously he didn't listen,
and then
he crashed.
He crashes, right?
Until that point, they're building up this trust, this teammate friendship and bond, and they're working together. They're not failing like they were in Britain.
Yeah, which is nice to see.
That was nice to see. And what kind of was annoying for me is that it went from it's really good, and he crashes, and he just immediately blames it all on Sonny, and just completely crashes out at him, I don't trust you anymore.
I think that was, I really didn't understand that because again, I hate to keep saying in real life because it's not meant to be a necessarily realistic film, somewhat. But if there was a driver that did that, I don't think you'd be blaming a guy that was 5 seconds behind the road. It's like you might blame the person next to you for touching you, and in those moments when they have a bit of clipping and someone spins off, then oftentimes over the radios and they go.
But that wasn't even the case. There was no contact whatsoever.
Because he goes around the outside, goes too wide, hit the sausage grab and flies in the air.
Yeah.
And then is it his mum that assumes that it's Sonny Hayes' fault? And Joshua just doesn't correct
her? That's what I was going to say. I didn't like that Josh's mum immediately just goes and blames Sonny. He says you're an asshole or something. I think you're a dangerous asshole or something. She said like that.
I just don't understand.
He's not.
It doesn't
he's
make
not
sense.
Involved in the situation.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's giving advice.
I'm not gonna lie, man. If that was my mum in that position, she would have been like, "Well, the guy's, he's 5 seconds back that way. It's not what he's got."
I can't say the same for myself.
You didn't touch the driver on your right, and he's 5 seconds down the road. So no offense,
that was very Hollywood.
Absolutely.
That was so Hollywood. That the way she blames.
They had to, because then that led to them. That allowed for them to be there. That there's that tenseness between them. Because Joshua was kind of convinced by his mum for a period of the movie that it was Sonny Hayes' fault, and that kept him. Because after they were leading up to Monza, that bond was starting to build, and the crash sets it all the way back. Yeah, because then there's that period in the film afterwards where Josh is kind of convinced by his mum somewhat that. Yeah, it's Sonny's fault. He's the reason I'm out of the sport. here's the reason I've gotten all these burns, and it takes him so long to actually correct his mom, because then there's that scene where he goes to his mum and he
says,
goes,
"Oh, this is what actually happened."
yeah, he says, it's not actually Sonny's fault. It was my fault. He says,
and I didn't listen to him. Yeah,
he literally says, like,
Yeah.
it's my fault. It wasn't it was completely mine.
And it was annoying that it took until that last race for him to do
was, wasn't it? It was
and that, again, that is very Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to keep saying that because that is essentially what this movie is. They've got the rights to call it F1, have the logo literally be F1.
Yeah.
They literally just called the movie F1.
I think they did, didn't they? It wasn't like the Formula One movie. It was just
one F1, the movie, like to make it clear that it was the movie, but they didn't even write it in the.
Yeah, because then when the title card came up, it literally just said F1.
Yeah.
You know what? I think, and I know I said this right at the start, if you know what F1 is, you know what the sport is, you know a bit about it, you will enjoy this film.
Yeah.
If you're a diehard fan that enjoys the very finer things, then you will find a lot of it where you go, really?
You'll still enjoy it.
You'll still enjoy it.
You'll absolutely enjoy it.
But there's also going to be a bit of it with you.
But you are going to nitpick stuff. Absolutely, for sure.
I will, at some point, I want to nitpick with you because I've got stuff I want to nitpick.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. But
like, yeah, I mean, like, obviously these races, they were cool. Like,
I just don't think there was enough of it. It glossed over so much of it because there would be points where they'd go into a race. Oftentimes, they'd show the start sequence, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, lights out, and away we go. You know, first lap, those first few corners, and they'd have Crofty and Brundle over the thing going, oh, and Sonny Hayes is making moves. And then it would just go, oh, lap 20 of 62. And then it's like, oh my God, I have to pit and I've got this guy right at my ass. And it's like, they're instantly jumping ahead. And it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah, and I also felt like one thing I want to say it was not a visual, but it was more like a sound thing. During the race, you obviously get the POVs for most of the race, and it's just pretty much the driver's POV, and you get a bit of radio, and that's what we see in the race mostly.
Yeah.
And I like the way they had the faint commentary kind of. It wasn't like super clear. It was more like ghostly sounding commentary in the
sound in it. The sound.
And that was something I think they did really well.
I reckon the sound effects of the film are pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Like there was those cars, because they're F2 cars, they one thing you might have noticed is you might have noticed it. So the F2 cars, the exhaust on the back, when they shift, I think it's usually when they shift gears, they have that back shot that comes out. There's there's the backfire. There's that tiny little explosion. There's the little bangs that come out. The F1 cars don't do that.
Yeah.
And there's a few shots where they have, I think it's in the Silverstone, where they have the two Apex GP cars fighting an Alpine car. They go around cops and both of them have that kickback as they're downshifting. The Alpine car doesn't do that, which I thought was really interesting. And you can actually hear the difference when the Apex GP cars come around. They sound so similar to the ones that I saw in the Grand Prix this year.
Yeah.
It's like, and I thought, wow, that's freaking awesome. You know, that's amazing, because that would have been real audio that they would have recorded as the cars were actually flying by. So, but
I think the thing you have to think about is like they would have had to like pretty much replace audio for like almost the entire the entirety of what their sound of that car would make, you know?
Yeah.
Because they needed to sound like an F1 car. And obviously, I don't know if you saw, there was like a little interview with Brad Pitt, like just before, a couple of days before the movie came out. He was saying, oh, Lewis was on it. He was like saying, oh, that's, making sure the engine sounds were correct in every single corner. Like, yeah, I did see that. He said that Hamilton was supposedly making the film as precise as possible in terms of, there were certain corners where he said, no, the sound doesn't sound like that when the car goes by because of how it bounces off the walls. It sounds, if you're standing from this perspective, like if a camera shot is from here, the car will sound like this and this, which that's pretty impressive that he was doing that. And he was like going through all that effort to make it. I mean, he's raced since 2007. I feel like he's fully got the capability to do something like that, absolutely. 18 years. Absolutely, just racing. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure that even like diehard fans would struggle to notice the difference. Yeah, because I like the way they focused on that. You know? I think the effort was there. Absolutely, this film did not under-deliver in terms of. I think the good way to look at it is the story is questionable. the actual production of the film itself, like
Mm.
the racing, sound, visual, that stuff, like I gotta say, like mostly
Mm.
10 out of 10 to be honest. Like,
You know what, as well, actually, that opening scene where they race at Daytona 24 hours is that because I believe those are the same cars that would race at Le Mans.
mhm.
Oh my God, they sound exactly the same. Seriously, when I
Yeah,
watched Le Mans two
yeah,
weeks
yeah,
ago, they sound identical. The GT3 cars, the
yeah.
way they shift up and down, the way they have those bangs as they, all that stuff, it sounds so similar. And when they have the driver on boards,
Yeah.
it's just, I wonder if that stuff is real as well. I never saw if any of the stuff from that opening scene was practically done or whether it was
Yeah,
CGI.
yeah,
But sound effects wise, the effort's there,
yeah, yeah,
100%.
yeah,
Like that sort of stuff.
yeah.
They are
Yeah,
delivered on that 100%.
100%.
Yeah,
I'm gonna praise them for that because that's one thing they did really well at, and I think
they
honestly,
they were certainly invested
yeah,
and they did not underdeliver. And I keep saying that word because it's true. They did not underdeliver in the slightest in
yeah,
terms of
yeah.
the effort. It was all there.
Like, I think I'd watch the movie again
I
for
definitely
sure.
would.
Even though the plot would be
Yeah.
the plot is really the main weak point, isn't it?
It's just a bit predictable, to be honest. It's just a bit, and unfortunately, a few things were leaked to us, and it was impossible to hide those because a lot of it was
Yeah.
practically
So
done.
actually,
So you and I in the film were
yeah,
saying at one point when it was like kind of quiet, I think you and I said to each other, "Oh, don't they win a race somewhere?" You said they won a race in Mexico, which
Mhm.
didn't turn out to be true,
It was
but
actually
Abu Dhabi.
yeah, it was actually Abu Dhabi, but why I thought it was Mexico is
Yeah, why did you think that?
it was there's the scene of like Brad Pitt actually getting out of the car and like
Mm,
waving to the fans and stuff in Mexico. Usually you do that if you're on the podium where you win, right?
because the cars pull into that
Yeah,
big
that sort of
open
like
stadium
stadium
area. Yeah,
area,
yeah,
and you would just go and do that and like sort of celebrate a little bit, and then you go and
yeah.
obviously have the podium.
Mm,
And I thought that was that. I thought why would like someone just get out there for like a P5,
yeah.
which is what it ended up being.
But then
But
there
then
was
when we saw that, because that was obviously not a full race, it was more just highlights.
yeah, and then there was also
Um, yeah,
and then Abu Dhabi. Yeah, that's impossible to hide. He literally
yeah.
is.
So that was the thing. I saw
I forgot about that, to be honest. You
I saw
reminded
it
me.
after the race
Mm,
last year's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. That's where they filmed the
mm,
scene. I saw that Sonny was on the top of the podium,
mm,
Leclerc was second, and Russell was third.
mm-hmm,
When this race was happening, and like after the safety car and the red flag, sorry,
mm,
and the two Apex cars were like right up there
mm,
fighting for a win.
mm,
They just both got past Leclerc, and I was
mm,
like, okay, I think Russell is the one who is behind them.
mm.
Hamilton's here now. And once Pierce was like in the lead, I was like, okay, I think Pierce is going to crash into Hamilton.
Yeah,
And then
wow.
on the
Yeah, yeah,
straight,
yeah.
it happened in the
Yeah.
first turn. And I was like,
You said you
there
did. You
you
said that to
go.
me.
And I was like,
You leaned over to me and you went, "I'm pretty sure Hamilton and Pierce will not finish this race or something
yeah,
like that." And then
yeah.
literally like 10 seconds later, yeah.
Because I just knew that it was Sunny and then it was Leclerc and Russell who
Mm,
were on that podium because I saw the video, the leaked video of
mm.
them like
On
on
the
there.
podium. Yeah.
That completely like ruined sort of that
I don't
surprise to
I
me.
don't think they can hide it though. How
Yeah.
if you really want to do it practically,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
impossible to do. Unless you want to
Well,
hire 10,000 extras. Then.
so let's kind of move on from so we've talked a lot about the movie itself
And
and
the
let's say
plot, yeah.
and the plot. Let's talk about what we wanted to see, right? So
Wanted to see?
what I was gonna say, obviously we saw that,
Mm,
and what I was expecting and kind of wanting was something like 2 years of hard work and like really grinding.
mm,
Okay, we get our first points, we get our first top five,
mm,
first podium, and then okay, win. They didn't get a podium before they got the win.
mm,
The win was their first podium for the team.
mm,
And you think about it, one car won, like won the race.
mm.
The other one didn't finish.
Yeah.
And there's no like
No between.
they're not upset about it. It's just
Yeah, because Joshua was celebrating, wasn't he? There's a scene.
yeah,
Is
well
that?
obviously he was gonna stay at the team. And
Mm,
obviously I understand why he would be happy, but for me, and I don't know if you've watched or played the game, but Breaking Point on the F1 game?
yes, breaking point. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so their whole concept is like this team Sport is
Mm,
like the 11th team, which is essentially the equivalent of like Apex in
yep.
this movie. and Connor Sport essentially just goes from like, they grab these drivers that were like in lower teams, they kind of just struggled, had bad teammates and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually they go to the Connor Sport team and then they build from like unreliable car that is
Yeah,
like
nothing
in the
to
midfield, barely
though.
scores points to like,
I
and
haven't played the new one in 25. Do they go to a point where they're winning races? Because
yeah, so the first season, it's quite a nice story. I like the way they do it, but it's just sort of they're like racing. They do get some wins and stuff, but they also easily throw it away.
mm,
And I would say overall they weren't like sort of I guess fast enough because it's like
mm,
the breaking point in the game is 2024 and 2025.
yep,
So that's what the timeline is supposed to be over. I thought
yeah,
it'd be similar in this movie.
mm,
And that's why I wanted to see like because in Breaking Point, the second season, 2025, they go on to fight Red Bull for a championship the entire year.
mm.
And then you can pick at the end which driver you want to win the drivers' championship. They both
Oh,
have a shot. So
really?
that's a cool thing I liked that
I didn't know
they
that.
have. And
Yeah,
I feel like they should have done something like that
where you
with Apex.
where you have the development over multiple years.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll tell you. How would this have sounded for a concept? Just throwing it out there. Let's
Yeah.
just say. So the start of the film is like keep it all the same. Sonny Hayes is racing in WEC and whatever. He's just
Daytona
going
and
bouncing from series to series just because he likes to do it, and that's his character. I think that's fine. His character is he literally just enjoys racing. How would it have sounded if he keeps his medical thing secret? Because towards the end of the film, it's revealed that he has something in his neck. He has like metal bars in his neck, which have been causing him a lot of pain all these years, which is why
from
that crash all those years ago. Which then obviously annoys his friend. Anyway, how would it have sounded for a concept if so keep it all the same up until where Ruben offers him a chance to go back to F1 and give him a hand. They literally have the first season, the team is just learning the drivers, they still kind of they don't like each other, they kind of picky whatnot. They spend that first season. I would be happy if they just glossed over that first season, just have it where they go from race to race. Bad results, maybe a few points here and there. Second season, something happens, they go, you know what, they kind of get a bit more friendly. And then that second season is them actually maybe winning a few races.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, they kind of solidify themselves as, not a lower team, but a midfield team, even a championship contender. And Sonny has to leave the sport because of his medical thing. And then there's kind of that thing where Josh is like, I have to now step up. He has, he's gone from hating this guy to maybe idolizing him in a sense and thinking that he's actually really nice and he's showing me all this stuff, and then kind of being heartbroken in the sense that he has to be the one that steps up now and that he loses that connection. I know that's so
honestly,
different to what the film is now, but
I feel like it's similar to kind of what I said, like, but except obviously you haven't gone for like, oh, they should win a championship.
I think, I just think it's a little unrealistic if the team's only been in there for 2.5 years to go straight to winning a championship.
Or you could even just be like, you just like in this movie, they don't show the first few years of them just being really bad. And then you have 2 years of going literally almost from back to front because, obviously, yes, it is not really realistic, but McLaren did do that. McLaren did go essentially.
They were
in 2023. They were last.
Pretty much back markers for the first chunk of that season. Second half,
and then they just pulled up and they were like on the podium 2-3 every race.
Yeah,
and Max was just like the one person who they couldn't beat.
And then 24 obviously is when they
actually upgrade. Now you have 25, which is where they're essentially the Red Bull of 2023, right?
Absolutely right. So I think that would have been a cool concept. Maybe not winning the championship, but I
feel like maybe the drivers' championship. That's a bit more something you could do.
Yeah,
because you have the thing is right. F1 is the how much you base it on car and driver can it depends on a lot of things. Like you look at someone like Max.
Yeah,
everyone knows how much he carries the car that's below him. Like,
what is it now? Like, what's Red Bull on? Like 193, something like that.
Yeah,
and 180 of those points are from Max. I think.
Yeah, I think the rest
that.
of the Red Bull team is only scored like 7, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's nothing. It's really nothing. And so I feel like you can see. I feel like seeing just some because I don't want it just to be like, oh, okay, they're just still trying to just get a win, which is what this movie was.
Yeah.
The championship is the thing that people really, really want. The people who still haven't won it in F1 right now, like Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, even like Sainz, who's a bit older. These guys. Ultimately, their dream is just get a world championship for themselves. Like that's what they want, right?
That's why the sport's so brutal. You
Yeah.
can't because
That's
like
the ultimate goal.
look for me. I
And
like
yeah,
I go for Mercedes, but I really don't mind who wins. I like seeing everyone win. I like seeing like variety of wins, and if I could, I'd give a championship to everyone. Like I'd love to see Piastri win a championship, Norris win a championship, like George, all of them. I'd love to see all of them win a championship, but
Yeah.
it won't happen. There's
Yeah.
just not enough to go around,
yeah.
and they will not.
And there's not enough years and time for everyone to
Yeah.
actually have a go.
Absolutely, and it's
And then
all,
you have people like, Verstappen and Hamilton just taking it all away for a solid decade or half a
they
decade
have
or
those
whatever.
periods where they are so utterly dominant that it's
Yeah.
physically impossible for you to
It's
do anything.
no chance for anyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I feel like we've talked pretty much about everything. Like
I don't think we
I
can necessarily-
enjoyed the movie.
I genuinely enjoyed the film.
I'd watch it again for sure.
Yeah, I would.
And I'm pretty sure I might go see it again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've been asked a couple of times. People wanted to go watch it.
I have a few of my other friends. Like, I have a few, like, there's like 5 of them are all diehard F1 fans, but all of them are they literally all work like Monday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday. They've got stuff this week.
Okay.
So I'll see how we go. But
lucky enough, we went and watched it.
I wouldn't have changed it, man. But,
no, it was cool. It was really cool. Obviously, there's plenty of stuff that we would like to see change.
But for an F1 movie, I think it's pretty good.
I think it captured the base of like, I still feel like it showed. I feel like the primary thing wasn't actually the plot, like what they wanted to show. It was more of what they wanted to show, like as in how fast the car is, how advanced the car is, because like it is like they have like 1,000, 2,000 people working on a car.
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
I feel like they wanted to show how like
it all
the
comes together.
engineering behind it, kind of, but like
Yeah,
they didn't dive into it too much. They did kind of simplify a little bit, but I feel like in an appropriate way. And so I feel like that was something that was good from them as well. And obviously, like we said before, like the visuals, just the way they captured it, I feel like it's probably the closest you can physically get to showing how those cars go.
There is
Right?
no way of truly capturing those cars' speed, and if you literally got them into an actual F1 car, I don't think they'd have it physically, because those drivers have been training for years and years and years, and even getting their body used to it in the lower formulas. So after years and years and years, yeah, they can handle it. It's like, did you ever see Top Gun Maverick?
Yeah. This is kind of similar, but the
Exactly right.
same creators.
One of the producers or directors, I think. But yeah, exact same thing. The US Navy let them use actual F-18s. All of those shots where they're in a fighter jet, they're actually practical. Before any of the actors were allowed to get on, they all had to pass basic flight training or basic training in terms of G-force. They all had to do ejector seat training. One of them was where they put them in a pretend flight capsule, and they turn it upside down in water, and they have to pop the canopy and take off all their harnesses. I think that's one of the things they had to do. And a little bit of G-force training to make sure that if they go in the plane and they suddenly, bank and pull up hard right or something, the head won't just like smack into the glass, and they can actually keep it centered on. So
no, I like there was some correlation. I did see it because I've watched both movies and now obviously. And so I
love it when films do that. They choose practicality over CGI, because you really can tell. I mean,
yeah, you can. Even though it's obviously much more difficult to do that.
Oh, much more difficult.
Like you still can't sense. You still don't get the same sense you would if you were actually in there.
But I
watching it.
Appreciate it so much more, and I like the film so much more. Even if I don't necessarily enjoy the film, I still think that is so cool to think that is not just a shot of like the entire background is fake. Everything around them's fake. That's real. It's all real.
Yeah,
I love that so much. Those things like
I
that
like
amazing.
I like the access F1 gave to them for that as well.
I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah,
and we did have a lot of cameos as well. I
liked
that Gunther in there. I think
Yeah,
the Hungarian GP. I think he was there. Like, what the hell are you guys
yeah,
doing?
because definitely like he leans out and he goes like that to them or something, like flips them off. He like,
I
oh,
think he looked over like confused, and then they flipped him off. I think that was the way it was.
you know what? One of the scenes I really enjoyed in the film was when they were doing the interview with Fred Vasseur, Zach Brown, and can't remember his last name. Casper is the name of their team principal for Apex GP,
Mm.
and I love how like brutally realistic it is. Where they go, so Zach, what do you think about what do you think about Apex GP? You know, is it concern for you that they might start to winning races? And he goes, yeah, we tend not to worry about them back there or something like that.
Yeah,
And then he goes, Fred, what do you think of the team? What
and
does
he was like,
Ferrari think of the team? And he goes, we don't think of them. And I was like,
yeah,
that is so realistic because
that's
they
realistic.
they
That's
have
some of that stuff.
I
They got
love that because
yeah,
they do in real life. They have like sometimes where they like the team principals have like those jabs at each other, like they go, yeah, Ferrari shit. I don't like Ferrari.
yeah,
We just don't like the other team,
yeah,
like stuff like that. But
yeah. But yeah, I think overall, what would you give out of 10? Let's kind of end
out
off
of
on
10,
that.
I reckon like I think I'd give it a 7 out of 10 to be honest.
7 out of 10.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel like it's a great film. It's exactly what it needs to be. It's an F1 film. It's a film about the racing. It's got stuff on the side. You see everything. You get some wins. You get
yeah,
some losses.
yeah,
You get crashes. You get
yeah.
heartbreak. I think that's it. But there could have been more. I think it needs to be a bit more racing,
Okay.
and it was a little bit predictable. I
Yeah,
felt like there was a few times where I was just
I
thinking,
think I think I would say okay. I'm gonna look at it in like different ways. I would
mm,
say if you're an F1 hardcore fan
mm,
searching for that proper realistic F1 stuff,
mm.
don't don't look for that
Yeah,
because otherwise you'll just simply think of it as like a 4 or 5 out of 10.
yeah,
And if you that's basing it on plot. If you're looking at it as just a film, I would say, for like a non-F1 fan, let's say, or someone who just knows about F1 that it exists and
mm,
a few things, I would say people would give it like an 8 or 9 even.
mm. I
But
can
for
match
me,
this
I would
one.
agree with you.
Seven's
Seven,
pretty round,
like
pretty
from that
fair.
perspective, I don't want to be too harsh and be like,
Mm.
it's terrible and all this stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think it's fair because, like you said, the realism,
yeah.
yes, it lacked.
Mm.
And for us, obviously, we wanted more of that. But the way they capture stuff was amazing.
It's
And the only
I
really the only thing taking away from it was
yeah.
the plot, really.
I think I
Yeah.
completely agree with you in just some of the ways the characters developed and some of the stuff they more focused on, but there is not a single part of me that doubts that they had the effort behind it 100%.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
single direct because I feel like every single one of the people that worked in that film genuinely wanted to bring it to life and put it on a big screen and show them how intense the sport is, how difficult it is, the mental side of it and how it affects people and what those crashes can do to you and
Yeah.
how having everyone's eyes on you. Because there's also those parts where Joshua's, he's got his manager with him and his manager's going, hey man, you've got to start performing because, at the end of this year, if this team doesn't exist, you need to look for another seat. And at the moment, you're stuffed because you are not performing. And that
Yeah.
side of it because you see it all the time. I mean, we don't necessarily hear about it in real life of how drivers are affected, but you can pretty comfortably assume that when there's those situations where they're being told, listen, you're not performing, you will not have a seat at the end of this year, you have to get your foot in the door somewhere else, perform or your career's over,
Yeah.
something you've dreamt of for years.
Yeah.
I think they've done that very
Yeah.
well.
Look, yeah, I think that's just I feel like we could talk about this all day. Honestly, there's so many things you can talk. You can talk like you can look at the different things and all
You
that
can
stuff.
look
And
at it from
we have done that.
you can look
All
at it
the
from
time.
so many lenses, you really
Yeah,
can.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I 100% enjoyed it. Like, watch it again, like I said, and I mean, I hope I kind of want to see a
A second
second
one.
one.
I
I
just
think it would be nice to see sort of,
I don't know how they could.
maybe ignore what I said before about the whole championship thing because they've already done what this is now. But like, Pierce steps up and Hayes becomes like a principal or something.
I think that would be cool. I don't know how they could go into a second one. Maybe
What
if
they call it.
F2.
F 1.2.
At 1.2, yeah.
Yeah.
But like I don't know how they could do it. Maybe yeah, now Joshua Pierce has stepped up and it's maybe like 2 seasons maybe it's 3 seasons later. The first 2 seasons, Pierce has started to win a few races, and in the maybe the second season, he has gotten very close to winning the championship. Maybe he came third or fourth,
Yeah.
something like that. And now this last season, Hayes comes back and he's like able to give him that advice, and maybe he wins the championship in that final year,
Yeah.
or something like that. But
We'll see. Let's see. Maybe they'll do it.
maybe they will. I think. We'll stick with the first one though.
Yeah,
it only came out like 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
So we've got to
Yeah,
give it a bit of time
yeah.
to
That's true.
sit and rest.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think that sums up everything. It was definitely a good movie. I think definitely would recommend watching it.
absolutely.
Just go in with no expectations. That's the best way I think.
I think you just got to enjoy it. You just got to appreciate
Enjoy
it.
it for what it is. Don't think too much about the plot.
Just
enjoy the silliness as well. Yeah.
Yeah, just appreciate it. Enjoy the driver cameos, seeing them on the big screen and how it's been brought to life and how they managed to capture the sport that you enjoy watching. So,
Yeah. Well, that sums up everything for today. Appreciate anyone watching this video. Obviously we just want to get our thoughts out, and obviously I appreciate you coming onto the channel.
Thank you for having me.
First ever guest, and
yeah,
I hope we do a few more of these.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's been fun. It's been enjoyable just waffling with you.
Yeah, so it's easy to do, isn't it?
It is. It's always get carried away with it, but
look, make sure you guys check out the movie, and until then, we'll see you guys in the next video.